Good morning. Happy Friday. I hope you guys have been having an amazing week. And I hope you guys can hear me okay today because the neighbor's lawn mowing guy is here early. Normally he mows in the afternoon and he's mowing right during my Facebook Live. So I hope the sound of the lawnmower doesn't drown us out this morning. Good morning, Tiffany. I hope you are doing well and I hope you've had an awesome week. So today is all about Q&A. I'm going to get through as many questions as I can in about 15 minutes and then just kind of leave with some final thoughts as you guys go through the weekend. So like I said yesterday, if you guys are joining the challenge and it's Friday and you have 5 days worth of emails and you're like, oh, I haven't done anything. Guys, it's okay. It's not school. We're going to go try some stuff this weekend. Go take some brave next steps. Do some reflection. Find your brave energy mantra and post it over the weekend. It's totally fine. Monday at noon Central Time, I am going to announce the winner of the $50 gift card live. And so you can get entered into that by just sharing ahas, sharing your brave energy mantra with us, sharing about a little brave micro step that you took. And it's super inspiring to see you guys out there just kind of stepping outside your comfort zone and taking risks. And it inspires the rest of us to do the same. So with that, I'm going to answer a few questions that I got in. And the first one is from Ashley. And she says, how do I reach goals and promotions when outside leaders have kind of a foggy perception of my current role and what it all entails? How can I let others better see what I actually do and am capable of when they don't directly work with me enough to know? And I think that Brooke has a similar question. It's what if your title doesn't reflect what you do? How do you make sure that your LinkedIn profile gets noticed? How do you handle situations where you don't feel valued? So I think basically what the thread of these have in common is, how do I get people to see me? How can I show up and get seen? How can I get people to take notice of my work? How can I get other people to recognize my value? And, I was actually just having a conversation with another senior leader about this yesterday. And guys, this happens at all levels. This happens in conversations that I have with senior vice presidents, and it happens with women who aren't maybe necessarily even leading teams or don't have a formal title. And so I think that this really comes in two parts. One, and your ego is not going to like this answer at all, so just prepare yourself. But I would really separate out what it means to you to be seen. Like, what does that mean to you? Does that mean that somebody is rewarding your behavior? Does that mean that you're getting a promotion? Does that mean that you're getting a raise? Or does that mean that your boss just says, hey, great job? So I would be very clear about what it is you're looking for and how you're going to feel when, like, imagine yourself getting that recognition. And then I want you to sit with that and imagine how that makes you feel. That's oftentimes a lot of this brave energy that I'm talking about. And I want you to think about what other situations give you that same energy. And how can you create more of that energy yourself? Because here's the kicker. Our ego likes to say, I will feel motivated when somebody recognizes my work. I will feel valued once I get a raise. It's really going to mean a lot to me that I've arrived if I finally get this title. But what that is that's the ego just playing you on both sides. It says, if then that. And then what happens is sometimes we get that, and then we're searching for like the next thing, because see, the ego's never happy. It's actually always codependent, and that's the key. It's always codependent on something else, something external that it can always seek for validation. So what if you could go through life never needing validation from anybody? I know that seems a little bit like, what? But I would encourage you just to sit with that and reflect on that this weekend. What if you could go through your career never needing validation from anybody? What would that open up for you? Would that give you more courage to try things? Would that give you, more confidence counterintuitively to act in the situations that you know you need to act in, and to show up and be seen because you're creating that energy and you're not waiting for someone else to define it for you? In fact, perfect example, I was coaching a leader who is kind of like she's like an informal site leader at her company, because her company has like 6 different locations across the country. And so even though she doesn't have the title, she doesn't even have the title she wants. But we spent an entire coaching conversation on, imagine if you had this title, how would you show up differently? And the whole, like, she just listed like 10 things. She goes, well, if I didn't wait for that title, here's some things I would do. And she listed out 10 things. And so her assignment is, then go do those things. And lots of times we think that we can think our way into acting, or if we just get that title, then we'll act. I want you to flip the ego on its head, and we can actually act our way into new ways of thinking and doing. So that's your assignment. What would you do if you had that title? Sit with that, reflect on it, and then start doing those things. And it's all about moving into that energy yourself. Another question I got was just EQ in general. How can I be passionate? Liz asked this, how can I be passionate but not be perceived as emotional? So I would just be curious on how emotional is defined. And I don't like to pick on, good morning, Amy. And I don't like to pick on gender things. But one of the things I've tended to notice is that men can be passionate, and they're typically not accused of being emotional. So one, I would consider the source of feedback. Okay, is this credible feedback? Okay. And I would self-reflect if that was given to me and just say, okay, are there times when I'm letting maybe my own personal preferences create a response in me that leaves me very either rigid or trying to be right or trying to force my opinion? Those are the things that I really want to manage, right? Like, I want to manage my passion in ways that my preferences don't hurt anybody. And when I mean hurt anybody, I mean it closes me off from hearing other points of view. It's leaving me over talking you so I can't, hear you out and see your perspectives. Passionate might mean that, I'm, running the energy of the entire room and I'm leaving no room for anyone else. So those would be really important reflection points for me. If I am passionate about something, and the magic word is and, that's why I had the little, I guess it's this way, ampersand up here. If I'm passionate about something and I believe that I can still hold space for other people so that they feel safe to speak up, safe to share their views, I'm not in a conversation about being right versus happy, trying to impose my opinions, then I could be in a place where I'm finding some good balance. So here's a simple trick. I want you to just draw a line down a piece of your paper, and you can put the word passionate on one side. And I don't know what your word would be on the opposite. I think that's something that you would have to find what your balance is. So maybe how can I be passionate and open-minded? How can I be passionate and reasonable? How can I be passionate and kind? So I don't know what your balance word is. I'll let you choose that. But put passionate on one side, put your balance word on the other, kind, logical, open, reasonable, whatever that opposite feels like for you. Draw the line down the middle. On the passionate side, you can list all the ways in which you come across passionate, maybe good or bad. On the other side, whatever your balance word is, write down some actions or some adjectives that describe what that looks like. And then just do the and. How can I be passionate and kind? How can I temper my approach to people so that I'm passionate and open to what they're saying, so that I'm passionate and I can sit and be patient and not work really hard to convince others of my opinion. So that and activity is something that I always think is great personal reflection for finding that balance that we bring to situations. Another question that I got was, how do I work on explaining things better and not assuming that people already know? And that's almost like an awesome question and a great answer in itself. In another video, I talked a lot about my Easter Bunny analogy, that when I lead live training classes, I do this exercise that illustrates how ambiguity is the enemy of accountability. Ambiguity creates lots of conflict. So I'm like, I need you guys all to bring me an Easter Bunny. And I'm like, does everybody know what the Easter Bunny does? And most people like nod their head. And I'll ask them, was the Easter Bunny even in your culture? Just write yes or no. There's no right or wrong answer. And so I say, okay, I need you to bring me an Easter Bunny. I want you to write down how tall your Easter Bunny is and what color. And when I poll the audience and I say, I wanted a 6 foot tall pink Easter Bunny, I get hundreds of different variations of the truth, because some people's Easter Bunny was 0 to 2 feet, 2 to 4 feet, 4 to 6 feet, over 6 feet, white, gray, blue, pink. Some people didn't grow up with the Easter Bunny in their culture. And this is so common in our organizations, because even though we think we all have a shared meaning of the vision or what we're talking about, we have to remember that everybody has brought in their own lens of the truth. They've worked for different leaders. They grew up in different environments. Project management meant something different in their organization. Some people are brand new, or they just didn't get the memo, okay? And it's very similar to how we all grew up, and we shape our views of things in culture. So not to assume is just to pretend that everybody starts at awareness level 0. What are my clear goals for the project? Clearly, what does success look like? And so when I'm explaining it, I'm checking in with you and saying, tell me in your own words what a successful project would look like. You'll likely find that they might not share the same definition. And so that's a great way to check for understanding and to see where the gaps are. Here's what I'm expecting. If you were to complete this successfully, what would that look like for you? What would you be bringing me in 2 weeks? Have them, write that out, and then you can talk through the differences. That's a great question. Caitlin wants word tracks for presenting ideas. And I know that she also wanted word tracks for presenting challenging stuff. And we talked about that in the boundary setting statements on Wednesday. So you guys can watch the day 3 video. But word tracks for presenting ideas, it can just be super informal. I know I always used to be so afraid to pitch my ideas to other leaders in the organization. And I'm not sure why. I think they thought, and this kind of leads into the next question from Becky, it's how to get beyond what will people think. And I think my big thing was, what if people think I'm stupid? That was my big one. And so I really had to flip that on its head. And I would encourage you to do the same, that if you have that fear, what will people think? Or people will think this is stupid. People will think that I'm crazy. What's the opposite of that statement? Well, people might think I'm smart. In fact, I was coaching a gal on this who was really hesitating to volunteer for this special interest group that was popping up at her work, because she was new. And she's like, well, what if I volunteer? And I raise my hand and I say something that's not right, and people think I'm stupid. Well, what's the opposite? So people could think I'm smart. And so we had her reflect on some genuine ways in which she's volunteered in the past and volunteered her ideas, and people thought she was smart. We reflected on some genuine ways in which she's been part of a group and somebody has volunteered their idea, and maybe it wasn't all fleshed out or wasn't 100% correct, but she really admired them and thought they were smart for volunteering. So I think it helps to kind of flip that on its head, find its opposite, and find some genuine examples of when that's been true. And so when I think about word tracks for presenting, one, I had to get past the belief that, oh my gosh, people will think this is going to be stupid, and really step into that energy of people could think that this is really smart. And that confidence kind of helped me get past some of my imposter syndrome stuff. And then when I was talking with other leaders, people love to talk about ideas, you guys. And so I just approached it as I would send them a meeting request and say, I have a business idea. I would love to get your ideas on. People love to share that sort of stuff. They love to share input. They love to share ideas. It's so simple. And then the meeting was all about how do we build upon an idea, not versus, you know, me having all this pressure to present something to you and you are the critiquer or something like that. So guys, those are awesome questions. So in the email today, I'll list those. I also have a few additional resources for you all so that you guys can kind of take some of that momentum into the weekend. I think the last thing I'll leave you with, and as always, if you guys have more questions, either live right now or when you're watching this later, drop them in the comments, because on Monday when I do my final video, I'll answer those. But I want us to really think, you've heard me talk a lot this week about brave energy. And as I've been reflecting on doing things that are brave and taking brave next steps, I also want to be mindful that these brave next steps also felt of ease. They also felt extremely peaceful. And maybe you guys kind of know that feeling. Like when you're about to do something really brave, yeah, it feels scary, but in a weird sort of way, it feels of peace. And so sometimes people ask, well, how do I know if I should take that brave next step? Like, how do I know if it's right for me? So if you're feeling scared about taking a brave next step, and honestly, the thinking forward of the future outcomes, so like when you kind of play this thing out, maybe there's a promotion on the job board, and you kind of play it out and imagine yourself living in that role. And if that role gives you a sense of heaviness or dread, then it's probably not right for you. But if playing yourself out and living in that job and imagining yourself making the decisions required, working with the people you have to work with, doing the actual work, and it gives you a sense of like ease, like excitement, fluttering, happiness, even though that brave next step feels scary, it's likely the right next step for you. A friend shared this with me once when, quite frankly, I was making a really big life decision. Just to be honest, I was trying to decide if I was going to call off my wedding or not to my husband now, to someone in the past. I was engaged. And she shared with me and she said, you know what, Kelly? She goes, God is not the author of chaos. He is the author of peace. There's a Bible verse for that. I can't remember. It's in Acts somewhere. And that was so settling for me. I'm like, oh, yes. I'm like, what's right for me, what's planned for my life, my divine direction, it might feel scary to take that first step, but it will always feel of peace. But imagining myself taking that brave next step, if it feels of a lot of chaos, or if staying in my current situation feels of a lot of chaos, it's probably not the right next step for me. And so that was like, made my decision still scary, but very easy, which now it's awesome because now I met my husband and all that fun stuff. So I did the same thing when I started my business. It was scary, but it felt of peace. So that's all I have for you guys today. Hopefully these questions were helpful. If you have more, put them in the comments. I'll go in and answer them, or answer them live on Monday. So take the challenges this week, find your brave energy, take little micro steps, share with me your ahas. The more you share in the Facebook group, the more you inspire the rest of us to keep going and boost our confidence. And I will be with you Monday at noon Central Time, and I will announce the winner of the gift card. Have an awesome weekend, and I will talk to you guys again soon. Bye.